Hare Krishna. Before we begin, let's pray to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastai Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namo. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurava Chalini Nivasesha Sunnivari Pashkitara Satarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaura Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Okay, without further ado, I was just having a little quick review of where we left off, and we are on chapter 18, which is which concludes part 4. And just on page 329, there's a nice synopsis of what this chapter is about. So I'll just read that paragraph so we can get some context of where we left off. So this chapter concludes part 4 of Sankalpa Kaumudi, and it's given some practical guidelines for actually making vows stroke sankalpas. So, and these guidelines which Maharaj is now speaking of in this chapter are as follows: knowing where we are and where we are going. That's something good to know on the journey, where we are and where we want to go. Yeah. Also, adhikar is important. Adhikar means, anyone knows what adhikar means? Qualification. Yeah. What's your specific adhikar? Okay. So, okay, we want to obtain Krishna prema. All right. What's our adhikar? What's our qualification for that?
Don't have adhikar, Prabhu.
Yeah, so we know where we are, how to get the adhikar. So adhikar means knowledge. Maharaj describes purity, which comes with time through hearing and chanting, and also very important is blessings, and also blessings and also practical guidance, yeah, in going through the different stages of devotion. And then he speaks about actually formulating a sankalpa. We spoke about that. Also, he spoke about incremental vows. Okay, say we want to achieve bhava. So then there's incremental vows that we may take so we can actually get there. It may be difficult for us to get to that stage right now. So he speaks about that. Incremental vows needed for final attainment. And from nectar of instruction, through all of this, we have to be patient. Yeah. Patience is a virtue. Also, some complaints out there about being patient. And also having willpower and determination. So that's where we left off last in our reading of Sankalpa Kaumudi. Maharaj is speaking about determination. And then we'll speak about the lifestyle that corresponds. We spoke about that a little bit, but more on the lifestyle that accompanies a Sankalpa. So I'm just going to mute here. That's it. It's a bit more quieter. Hare Krishna. So that's basically where we are in this chapter 18. And for those of you who have the book, if you can turn to page 336. 336, and we'll pick it up from there. Perhaps we'll just go back one page to 335, and just beginning with the paragraph which says without a doubt. So Sahachari Mother, you're back now, you got your hand up for reading. You can take us, you can begin us off. 335.
Yeah. Just let me know if there is a disturbance in the reception while I'm reading.
It's okay, your volume's a little bit low, but we can hear. It's a little bit low. Could be higher if it's possible.
It's okay now?
Yeah, better.
Something better.
Yeah. Without a doubt, there will be obstacles on the path to perfection. We are living in the material world. It is Kali Yuga. I think it's
very low. Your volume's a
that,
bit low.
okay.
You need to-
Without a doubt, there will be obstacles on the path to perfection. We are living in the material world. It is Kali Yuga, and our aspiration is lofty, to say the least. Therefore, a devotee should expect difficulties and even reverses in his efforts. It will not be an easy ride, but so long as we remain determined in service to the Lord Krishna, assures us that we will be victorious in our quest. My dear Uddhava, if my devotee has not fully conquered his senses, he may be harassed by material. Is it okay?
Yeah.
But because of unflinching devotion for me, he will not be defeated by sense gratification. One may question, how can a tiny jiva in this age overcome the results of past sinful acts and all the allurements of the material energy? Krishna's answer can be paraphrased thus: it will not be possible by one's own effort, but if by the ropes of devotional service one is connected to me, whose determination is infallible and whose every purpose is fulfilled, one's own determination and purpose become equally successful. The Lord's own words of comfort are as follows: a yogi who has faith in me, absorbing his mind in me, and knowing that my purpose is always fulfilled, will always achieve his purpose by the very means he has determined to follow. The next ingredient for making sankalpas is lifestyle. Although a devotee is firmly determined in his devotions, he must also adapt his lifestyle according to the sankalpa upon which he has embarked. For example, a devotee's level of renunciation and learning must correspond to the level of devotion for which he aspires. If one desires to attain steadiness, he must give up petty attachments and be regulated in studying Srila Prabhupada's books. Similarly, if one desires to rise to the stage of deep taste, he must be amenable to adjusting both personal discipline and subject for hearing so that they are relevant to his natural inclination. Following the example of Gopakumara, we see that he accepted the standards corresponding to his desired attainment. In Puri, he performed the duties of a king. In heaven, he took the role of Indra. In Janaloka, he performed sacrifices. In Tapaloka, he meditated, and so on. A higher level of devotion means higher standards of conduct, renunciation, mode of nature, and spiritual practices. Thus, a devotee must incrementally adjust his life, material and spiritual, in ways that are favorable to every new determination towards bhava. In short, a devotee must be constantly willing to move out of his comfort zone. That is the essence of Krishna's guidance for success, constant endeavor for perfection.
Okay, let's have a
A
little pause
devotee
there.
who
Perhaps we just pause there.
assiduously applies.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I thought I was muted, but not. So, any specific questions about that short section there? So we just touched upon determination. Just the end of that about determination. Anyone stuck in the comfort zone? A few hands have been raised there. Yeah, it's sometimes difficult to break one's comfort zone. We have a certain regulation, a certain way we move in our ISKCON society, certain things we do, certain places we go, certain services we accept, certain services we may not accept. But sometimes that can be within a certain, what's called comfort zone. So we should be looking actually to break out of that. And that's going to be different for everyone. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Nitai Mata.
Comfort zone I meant it's my body will say, little difficult that one for you. May not
Yes.
be. Your body may not be able to take it, that one. So that is the comfort zone I'm thinking. Not
Yes.
anything else.
Well, yeah, that's has to be that has to be a factor, is our physical condition. Yeah, I mean it has to be. So practice physically and doing specific services which are physical. So yeah, so we have to, yeah, we have to consider that. And we've got no choice, you see. So yeah, that's, yeah. And as
Yeah, and
yeah, go on.
I was thinking, like, even when you do austerity, which is outside of your comfort zone, eventually that becomes your comfort zone. You know, you might get used to like getting up at, like, it might be austere to get up at 3:30, but eventually it becomes your comfort zone. Do you know what I mean? I mean, things like that, like, oh yes, I must chant 16 rounds every day, and then if you break that routine, it becomes like disturbance. Like, so your comfort zone can be actually, you know, we're always getting, even if it's our mind may trick us and think like this is a comfort zone, and then when we want to, when we get a change of routine, it becomes disturbing.
Yeah.
Do you know? It's
Yeah,
this
yeah.
comfort zone. Like Krishna consciousness itself can be like a comfort zone. So, and then something comes along and changes it. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Kadama Swami said we should always be in a stretching zone, not the comfort zone, not the pain zone, but in the stretching zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. So Nimai Mata, she brought up a practical thing, that one thing that we don't have much choice on, and that's maybe often our physical condition. You know, there's certain things that we may not be able to do. But other than that, say for example, you gave the example of chanting. So if we can comfortably chant 16 rounds, and it's quite easy for us, then definitely at that point, after doing that for a few years, then we're going to want to stretch that a bit and perhaps come to, say, 32 rounds. And then the next one, if we get comfortable doing that, then we might want to look at 48 rounds. Again, it depends on our specific situation, especially as we enter more into later years, where there's not so much demands from the family situation. Then that's one example we may be looking at to try and break down the comfort zone, where we chant 32 rounds. But then, as Mawalawanga said, then we may chant 32 rounds for like 10 years, and for us it's quite easy. So then, but all these things have to be balanced out, of course. If someone's engaged in practical service, they may not have time, or they may not have the opulence of time to chant 32, 48 rounds. But without speaking about specific examples, I think let's just look at it from a general practice, and everyone's going to have their comfort zone is very individual towards them. So perhaps we can look and see what we can do to break out of that comfort zone, especially if it's in regard to helping to spread the mission or to preach Krishna consciousness. That's always good. Yeah. Like today, I tried to do that. Today, I went out on book distribution. So I don't normally go out so often. So today I went out. I broke my comfort zone. So that was very nice. Like that.
Prabhu, Mother Chandravali, that Srila Prabhupada disciple, the article which we got on the group, do you think it is good to speak on that?
You can. I haven't read it yet.
Oh, Prabhu, Murli Prabhu, did you read that message, Prabhu?
No.
The group?
No.
He doesn't get it on our group.
He's not in our group?
No.
He's a mentor himself.
Okay. Okay. Oh my God. That's enough. Okay.
Like Wasn't
Okay, tomorrow maybe then okay. Oh, we will send it.
Okay, so stay tuned. Hey,
Such
oi,
going back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada disciples' wife.
The one that's posted on the disciples group, I think by Varshana.
oh, so I've got it. Okay, I'll have a look at it. Oh, is that by Tamo Krishna Goswami Maharaj, or is it another one?
No, today.
Anyway, I'll have a look at it. Perhaps you could send it to me again, Mother Sachari. So I've got it there on my messages. Then.
Yeah. We can pick a lot of things from there, Prabhu. That's why.
I didn't read. I haven't read it yet.
Oh my God, that's so much hope giving, Mother.
Mm. So,
Later on.
so in essence, in short, a devotee just reading this again must be constantly willing to move out of his or her comfort zone. That's the essence of Krishna's guidance for success. So, in other words, a constant endeavor for perfection. Yeah. All right. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, we have another reader.
Yeah, I want to ask something. You know,
Please,
here
yeah.
I think it will not be possible by one's own effort. But yet we hear that you have to take a step towards Krishna and then he'll take some steps towards you. So we have to endeavor and then Krishna's wait for Krishna's mercy. But even that endeavor is going to come from Krishna. Isn't like everything comes from Krishna? So how do you?
Yeah, everything comes from Krishna, but at the same time, there's this statement. It was a nice statement. It said, "God helps those who help themselves." So the initial seed of determination has to come from us. Specifically used, like for instance, Krishna gives us instructions. Man manama vat bhakto majjati mam nam namaskuru. So one should always think of me. So Krishna gives specific instructions for us to follow. So it's up to us whether we follow them or not. So Krishna's given the instruction. We have the regulative principles, and we should always think of Krishna, and we should bow down to him. Now, so that we have to do, we have to make the effort to actually do that. And then that's Krishna. Krishna says, God says, God helps those who actually help themselves. So we have to make the initial effort.
The bird should fly for it.
Yeah, there has to be some effort on our behalf. We can't just sit back and wait for Krishna to make us determined. Krishna's already telling us to be determined in the Bhagavad Gita. That's why different verses, Maharaj is quoting different verses from the Gita. Like he says here, a yogi who has faith in me, absorbing his mind in me, and knowing that my purpose is always fulfilled. Yeah. So it's up to us to absorb our mind in Krishna.
Prabhu, is that about our free will, that we have to do it?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. Then that will feed. And then we will be inspired. So we've read this chapter, causeless causality, where we become inspired. Krishna inspires us. Then we become more inspired, and become more inspired. Krishna reveals more. We become more inspired. It's like we start a cycle of being inspired by Krishna, engaging in devotional activities, being inspired by Krishna, engaging in more devotional activities, etc.
Yeah,
Eternal causality. Huh?
Like the gopis love, they want to do so much for Krishna, and Krishna wants to do so much for them, and it's like,
Yeah, it's a competition. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's read on a little bit more. Perhaps where we'll talk a little bit. So, Mother Anupama, you like to read? You can read from page 337.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
A devotee who assiduously applies himself to the process of devotional service, keeping in mind the criteria that enables him to move step by step towards Bhava Bhakti is, in Krishna's words, assured of success. Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. The strong conviction that sooner or later Krishna will bestow his mercy upon me as the source of a sadhaka's enthusiasm and determination. And convinced of Krishna's mercy, we must be too. In this regard, Rupa Goswami prays, "O my Lord, I do not have any love for you, nor am I qualified for discharging devotional service by chanting and hearing, nor do I possess the mystic power of a Vaisnava, knowledge or pious activities, nor do I belong to a very high-caste family. On the whole, I do not possess anything. Still, O beloved of the gopis, because you bestow your mercy on the most fallen, I have an unbreakable hope that is constantly in my heart. That hope is always giving me pain."
So this is a nice example of what we just spoke about. Being enthusiastic. So we have to be convinced that, well, it does, hopefully we should understand Krishna is very, very merciful. So if we, regardless of our condition, and we just continue, this is very much what Rupa Goswami is saying. Is this from Rupa Goswami? Yeah, Rupa Goswami's prayer. Yeah, very nice, you know. Okay, you can continue, Mother, just for that point.
Such conviction is not wishful thinking, but the repeated assurance of scriptures and hence of our acharyas. The verses that follow are samples of scriptural statements that assure a practitioner of attaining perfection. And attaining perfection means that he realizes Bhava Bhakti and then full-blown Prema Bhakti. Let us start with statements from Shruti and Naya.
Yeah, correct.
That show how devotional service leads to liberation and indeed continues on after liberation. The Vedas teach, just as the sun rays in the sky are extended to the mundane vision, so in the same way, the wise and learned devotees always see the supreme abode of Lord Vishnu. Because those highly praiseworthy and spiritually awake brahmanas are able to see the spiritual world, they are also able to reveal the supreme abode of Lord Vishnu. In his Govinda Bhashya commentary to Brahma Sutra, Baldev Vidya Bhushana further cites the following well-known Upanishad verse to show that somehow who knows the Supreme attains both him and his eternal abode. I know that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to all material conceptions of darkness. Only he knows him can transcend the bonds of birth and death. There is no way for liberation other than this knowledge of the Supreme Person. Commenting on the following verses of Sri Ishopanishad, Srila Prabhupada is firm in his argument that since only devotional service can save living entities from repeated birth and death, taking to sadhana bhakti is a matter of necessity. One should know perfectly the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and his transcendental name, form, qualities, and pastimes, as well as the temporary material creation with its temporary demigods, men and animals. When one knows these, he surpasses death and the empirical cosmic manifestation with it, and in the eternal kingdom of God, he enjoys his eternal life of bliss and knowledge. And Srila Prabhupada's purport is, we must therefore save ourselves and our fellow men in the right way. There is no question of liking or disliking the truth. It is there. If we want to be saved from repeated birth and death, we must take it to the devotional service of the Lord. There can be no compromise, for this is a matter of necessity. With the same assertiveness as Srila Prabhupada's Baldeva Vidya Bhushana argues in his commentary to the last verse of Brahma Sutra, that the devotee who faithfully worships and serves the Supreme Lord goes to the spiritual world and never returns. Why? Because this is a firm conclusion of all scriptures. By Nam Sankirtana, one attains perfection. To emphasize this truth, The scriptures repeats one of its key aphorisms, its final aphorism. By name Sankirtan, one attains the spiritual world from which one never returns. By name Sankirtana, one
Nam
attains
Sankirtan, yeah?
Yeah,
Nam
Nam Sankirtan. One attains the spiritual world from which one never returns. In addition, the Supreme Lord gives his personal assurance. He promises that a devotee who practices regulated devotion will quickly awaken Raga Bhakti, and by mature spontaneous attraction, he will eventually purchase Krishna. What more surety would one need? In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will always come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Shruti is followed by Smriti, and the essence of Smriti is Srimad Bhagavatam, the pages of which are replete with the assurance. Indeed, the guarantee that offenseless sadhana bhakti results in loving devotion, and loving devotion purchases Krishna and his eternal association. Sukadeva Goswami says to Maharaj Parikshit, those who drink through oral reception, fully filled with the nectarian message of Lord Krishna, the beloved of the devotees, purify the polluted aim of life known as material enjoyment, and thus go back to Godhead, to the lotus feet of him, the personality of Godhead. Another quote from the same source is that of Lord Brahma, who in Krishna's presence confirms that the patient sadhana gradually overcomes all bad habits and guides the sadhaka up to the staircase of devotional service, leading to devotional liberation. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reaction of his past misdeeds and offerings, your respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. When Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discussed this verse, the Lord pointed out that Mukti Pada refers to Lord Krishna and the loving devotion that serves him. The next reference, one of the author's favorite verses, is from the closing lines of Rupa Goswami's Lalita Madhava. Herein, Srimati Radharani asks Shri Krishna to give her the benediction that a dedicated sadhana will not fail in its attempt to reach loving devotion. She asks for Krishna's guarantee. Krishna promises, knowing how dear she is to him, if Krishna gives a promise to Srimati Radharani, then we should rest assured that we'll keep it under any circumstances. Radha says, still, please grant this one benediction to those devotees who reside in the profoundly sweet land of Vrindavan and who for a long time yearn with a steady heart to someday attain you. Please, O Master of Gokula, appear before their eyes as their youthful friend. Krishna then replies, Priya Tatha Astu, beloved, so be it, and so it is. With the assurance of Acharya, of scriptures, and of Lord Krishna, our unwavering authorities, a sadhaka should move forward, one resolve at a time, convinced that if he yearns with a steady heart, he will achieve the goal of life. Such aspirants should not feel alone in their quest. Lord Shiva, the great Lord of this universe, was created to give protection to those brahmanas who sincerely pursue education, austerities, and vows for self-realization. He oversees sadhakas in the way that a cowherd herds cows with a stick. And of course, the original cowherd boy, Krishna, personally guides sincere devotees to him, giving them intelligence and illuminating their path. The Lord says, to those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Out of compassion for them, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. This chapter spoke of the ingredients that constitute the different types of determinations, which have been exemplified in earlier chapters and categorized into 5. Those full of the desire for aesthetic devotion, those which are the ingredients, causes of bhav, those favorable for bhav, those that are neutral for the accomplishment of bhav, and those are detrimental to bhav. There is yet more to determinations than we have covered so far, such as what causes and nourishes a sankalpa, how do we determine its accomplishment, and how are determinations lost. Those and other important topics are covered in part 5, equipped with the knowledge of the first 5 parts of Sankalpa Kumudi. The reader will then be able to put what they have learned to practical application in their sadhana along the lines presented in the last 3 parts of the book, beginning with part 6. Jai Radhe Shyam.
Jai Radhe Shyam, Hare Krishna. So I thought, hope you didn't mind, I thought we'd take that just to the end of the chapter. I saw that was only a couple of pages. So hope that wasn't too long a reading. And is there any questions or comments on that? A lot of verses were quoted. Maharaj quoted a lot of verses. But I think the underlying principle there is that if we should have complete faith in the mercy of Krishna, and Krishna gives that reassurance for those who are sincerely following the path, then they will achieve success. Any questions or comments or reflections on this? Quite a bit there, perhaps might too much to try and remember everything that was said.
Yeah, it's no, I was just funny. I was thinking that it's so easier to kind of follow because how he's explaining what we kind of surrender to Krishna from within. He's going to guide you, you know, things like that.
Yeah, and the path is and that guidance is very, very personal. Like,
Yeah.
for example, each of our journeys to taking up Krishna consciousness is very, very personal. It's very it's very, very much tailor-made, our path towards coming to Krishna consciousness, and also our path towards attaining Krishna. Due to the different nature of our personality and the different nature of our conditioning, we're all going to be put in different situations for certain amounts of time to learn certain principles of detachment, etc. To learn certain principles of being dependent upon him. So we can look at it from that Krishna's objective point of view, that the situations we are put in, sometimes it may seem very difficult, but we should have faith that Krishna's putting us in these situations so we can gain different tools to advance on the path of devotional service. So, and it's very unique for everyone. But what is required of us is that we do have to be kind of alive in the process. We have to be making these different determinations, and we have to be wanting to achieve these different levels of Krishna consciousness, these different levels of absorption in the holy name, for example. We can't just sit back, so to speak, and like take it in like in a mundane religion type of thing, you know, like where you go to church every Sunday, you know, you're punching a card. Has to be a bit, we have to really apply ourselves to the process, and then things will happen automatically.
It is just like you can't say sit back and wait for takeoff. It doesn't work that
No,
way.
you can't sit, but no, we can't. That's a good example. We can't sit back and wait for takeoff. We have to be looking for the runway. We have to be constantly on the go. Actually, it's a good example, isn't it? Because when we go to an airport, when we're traveling somewhere, we're quite obsessed, isn't it, of looking when our flight is. We check what time our flight is every 5 minutes, and we're sitting in front of the board. And we're looking up every 30 seconds or every minute. You know, the flight's in an hour, and we keep looking up at the board, and then we look at our isn't it? How many times do we look at our ticket? You know, so we're so in the same way, nice example Nima Mata has given, the same way that we constantly looking for ways and means to so that we can make advancement. And then Krishna, that's when that's when we will experience Krishna's lifting us, and Krishna will be guiding us, because we're showing him that we actually want to advance in our attachment and our love for him. And we're expressing that in our practice of sadhana, trying to break out the comfort zone. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to say, Prabhu, I felt like Maharaj is saying about sadhana, doing the sadhana. And I think I shared in the group where Srila Prabhupada is writing, chanting sincerely and performing regulative principles. And Krishna will give intelligence.
Yeah.
In in all questions philosophically from within the heart of a devotee, all doubts, because Krishna helps you within. Even you have doubts, sometimes even without you don't hearing, Krishna remove those doubts. Srila Prabhupada writes to a letter to somebody.
Yeah.
So similar, same thing Maharaj was saying. It's all up to the sadhana, how much attentive we are in our sadhana.
That's why he's quoting the Chato Sloki from the Bhagavad Gita, Te samsatakta yuktanam pajatam patibhuvakam. So those are constantly devoted to serving me with love. I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. Yeah. And many persons have gone to Krishna. And many persons have gone to the spiritual world, never to return again. So, yes. Anything else on this? Just closing pages on this chapter, on part 4. Is that part? Yeah, part 4. Closing part 4.
I was thinking whether we could just on the chapter, this paragraph. This chapter spoke of ingredients that constitute the different types of determinations.
Which paragraph? Sorry, I'm lost.
Top of 343, page 343.
Which part?
This chapter spoke of ingredients that constitute the different types of determination, which has been exemplified in earlier chapters. And then he's putting different categories, right? Those full of desire. I was thinking whether you could recap on that. Okay.
Well, I could try. I'd have to go back myself and read.
I just wanted to read it. It's like in the nectar of devotion, nectar of instruction, you associate with you give gifts and what things like that. So to me, that's connecting to that for me,
Yeah. Well, let's just read through it again. Those full of desire for ecstatic devotion. Yeah. So Maharaj mentioned here, and with those last pages we read, he mentions the different, it's given in the Nectar Devotion, perhaps to Udvala Nilamani, perhaps in Nectar Devotion, not sure. Yeah, but it describes the different vows that one makes according to one's position or adhikar for achieving different levels of Krishna consciousness. So here, those are full of desire for ecstatic devotion. So ecstatic devotion is bhava. Yeah. And the ingredient causes of bhava. Let me just, the ingredient cause. So what's favorable? What are the things favorable for the achievement of success in sadhana, for achieving bhava? Yeah. That's what it means. It said, what are the ingredients for bhava? So those favorable for bhava. Yeah. So the bhava, specific bhava, is for attachment or love for Radha and Krishna. So I think it was mentioned, for example, when one's at a specific stage of advancement, they're going to be hearing as much as possible about Radha and Krishna. and they might hear, and they're not going to be focusing on Krishna's relationship with the queens in Dwarka. So for a particular type of bhav that one wants to achieve, there's particular types of sadhana. Yeah. So those favorable for bhava. And some are neutral. I can't remember an example. So neutral means you can do those things and they won't add to it, nor will they take away from it. But it's not bad. One can do those activities. I can't remember an example without going back, I'm afraid.
No,
No, I would have to go back myself to get a more specific answer on that, I'm afraid. That's
on
as,
that paragraph. It's
that's as
quite
deep as I can go.
okay, fine.
Yeah.
Because I was connecting it to nectar of instruction, and I wanted to just recap in my head.
Yeah.
You know, what's favorable, what's not favorable, what you should do, what you, you know. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to read the book again. All right.
Yes. But those that are detrimental in bhav, you know, like that. So.
Yeah, I think one of those was mentioned was Ikadashi. That's favorable for a sadhaka. That's favorable for a bhava bhakta. Yeah, and also following or attending programs within a temple. That's favorable for sadhaka. That's favorable for a bhava bhakta. So a bhava bhakta also, Jiva Goswami mentions the chanting of the Gayatri mantras as well, that someone who achieves bhava, that they will not discontinue the chanting of their Gayatri mantras. But the Gayatri mantras will take on a different meaning for such devotees. These Gayatri mantras will be part of their Nam Bhajan because it consists of the names of the Lord. But it will be done in a different mood. I think Maharaj speaks about, I read one sentence where you got the Bhava Bhakta and the Sadhaka Bhakta. Both are reading from the same page. But the Bhava Bhakta, there's a lot more depth of realization and meaning that comes as opposed to the Sadhaka. So both devotees are reading from the same book. So remember we had that discussion as well. It's coming to mind now that, for instance, there is a misconception that advanced devotees do not read Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
Remember? No, wherever there is Krishna, it is relishable.
Yeah, we said that.
Yeah. I think this was more in Nectar or Sankara Gamudi. I mean, Sudha Bhakti Chintamani. Yeah, Sudha Bhakti Chintamani.
Muli Prabhu.
Yes.
Muli Prabhu, what about this Sangha, as we are actually going through the book and you're explaining each individual, we are discussing, what about this? This is more deeper as well. We're trying to have each other's opinion and discussing. That's another way of favorable for our, spiritual as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. This is very favorable. This is, Krishna says, for those who are devotees are like scientists and they share their realizations. Anyone remember that verse in Bhagavad Gita?
Yes, I sit in the places where my glories are spoken, not in the yoga.
Yeah, also Krishna's manifest. You can't glorify this type of thing enough. Okay, there's so much we can get when we're reading on our own, but there's so much more we can get when we're
relishing. Yeah,
and that pleases
more and
Krishna
more, yeah,
very much. So devotees sharing their realizations, trying to ask, we're helping each other to understand more deeply the process and what's needed from us to become successful in the process. Yeah, that's definitely favorable for bhava, for sure. It is not neutral. It is not detrimental. It's completely favorable. Yeah. And unfavorable for devotion would be for instance, getting into unneeded arguments or philosophical disputes, for example. It's not favorable. this came to mind today because we was distributing books in Covent Garden, and we're distributing on one corner, and opposite outside Covent Garden station, I saw these 3 brahmacharis, which I didn't recognize, and they're distributing books. So I asked Dirodata, who are those brahmacharis? He said, oh, they're the Ritviks.
Back to Prabhupada.
Yeah, they're the back to Prabhupada gang. So me going and speaking to them would have been unfavorable for attaining bhava. It's really unfavorable, pointless. It'd be unfavorable. So, yeah.
At least I thought they are doing some good thing for Srila Prabhupada distributing his books.
Yeah. So just let them get on with it. So without going down into all the details of that argument, but these are the way we have to. You understand what we've been advised here is how to steer our ship in such a way that the one thing in our mind is to make advancement in our spiritual life. And we want to avoid those things which will be detrimental. So, Marge, will you speak? Let's see how much we read here. We're going to read about a whole section which Marge describes about being attentive in a bhajan. So he breaks it down and helps. This comes up in chapter 26, so a little way to go yet. But there's a whole section on actually being able to practice sadhaka and get the most effect and sadhana and the most effect from our sadhana. And that's coming up later. Yeah.
Also, I was thinking that we reading and studying this now, and you just gave the example a little while ago about how the person who's got bhav, when they're doing the Gayatri, they'll have a different
having a different experience.
Yeah, it's like that. We're reading this and we kind of just the overview kind of thing is whatever's going in the head. But a few more years and you go back to this book again, and I'm sure we'll understand it a little bit more than what we understand now.
Yeah.
And appreciate it as well.
Yeah. And what will happen as well, we will remember parts of what we've read. We remember certain books that we read, and at certain stages in our spiritual life, the green light will flash. Krishna will say, now you need to go back and read this part. You need to study this part. Please, can you go? You should study in detail the Gayatri mantras, or you should read Venu Gita. You need to read this to enhance your bhajan. It will do you good. And in other words, we will know where to go. You know? We will, because we read the books, okay, we may not remember all the details, but we can remember its overall content. So then at some point in our spiritual life, it will become more relevant for us. Anyway, we're going on a bit, as they say, but we're just kind of summarizing this part 4 as much as we can.
I think it's nice.
Before we go
nice
to part 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I just want to, this is part 4. So we've gone part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. So part 5 is going to be an overview of Sankalpa, the importance of Abhidheya Gyan, the cause and nourishment of Sankalpa, results of Sankalpa, loss of Sankalpa, summary, sadhana, and Sankalpa. All right, so you're definitely going to remember that word, Sankalpa. and then Sankalpa and attentive Nam Bhajan. Yeah. And then as part 6 is entitled Sankalpa and attentive Nam Bhajan. Part 7 is entitled Sankalpa for chanting with emotion. Part 8 is Sankalpa for divine grace. Yeah. So let's get our foot in the door, shall we, for part 5? Unless there's any questions on that.
Yes, please.
Can we do that Vyasa Puja offering, Prabhu Mother Chandravali?
What's that? Do what?
That Vyasa Puja offering, that message came. That is also about Bhava, how somebody going back home, back to God. Can we read
Like
that?
I said, I haven't read it, so I don't know. I don't know any. I mean, I
Looks
haven't
like
read it.
Nitai Mat is determined that we read that.
Because Prabhu, it is very much connected to what we are speaking.
Okay,
Can we read it and then we can discuss it tomorrow? Or I mean, I haven't read it.
well, I've got it here now, I think. No, have I got it here now?
I mean, we
Did,
can read it if that's what you want to do.
did you send it to me? Sahat
It's only
Yes.
7 minutes.
Yeah, it is with you.
Oh, it's quite long. Okay,
But
look.
it's all about the journey.
Okay, let's.
Everyone got it. I haven't got it.
Okay, we can. I can send it to you.
Send you now, Raj Kishore.
Yeah, I don't have it either.
Okay, Murli Prabhu, do you want to read it?
Okay, I shall read it. So this is this is an offering from
Ahmed Yatma.
Ahmed Atma this year to Srila Prabhupada. I don't know him personally, but he's a disciple of Srila Prabhupada who took initiation in 1973. So Nitai Mata, she read this, and I had reading this evening as reminded her of this, and it's relevant. Okay. To His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It has been 46 long years since I saw you in person. In 1976, you never made it back to Los Angeles in 1977, and I was not able to come to India to see you again. For 41 of those years, I had a friend, a partner, my wife, who also left this world this year, and in an auspicious way. She had kidney disease, then congestive heart failure due to high blood pressure. In the last month, she knew she would be leaving soon in her last days. She hadn't slept for 36 hours. Then finally, she fell asleep. After 18 hours, I tapped her on her shoulder, and she immediately woke up saying, Radha, Radha. I had never heard her call out to Radha like that before. She again said, Radha, Radha, and she told me to start chanting. I put a recording of you, Srila Prabhupada, chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and I and our son, who was home, both started chanting the Maha Mantra. She asked for her Jagannath deity, and I placed him next to her. I put fresh tilak on her and placed a tulsi leaf in her mouth. And she left this world very peacefully, no struggle. She just stopped breathing, but Krishna was there in the form of his holy name, being chanted not just by her husband and son, but by you, Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotee of Radha and Krishna. What was most auspicious in my view was that when I woke her up and she called out for Radha, Radha, I knew right then that she was already on her way back home, and my waking her up brought her back here, just long enough so that she could depart in the most auspicious way. Then, a week after she left, she appeared in my dream where she gave me a message and asked that I tell others. The message she wanted to tell is this: she was a simple devotee. She never held any position. She was not in charge of any projects. Yet she wanted not just me, but others to know that she has been taken care of back home, back to Godhead. What she wanted me to tell everyone was that the program that you taught us, Srila Prabhupada, works. All we have to do is follow the simple program that you have kindly given us. Just chant at 16 rounds daily, read your books, and render service to Krishna in the form of his deity, to render service to you, Srila Prabhupada, Krishna's pure devotee. We don't have to become a big important devotee. We don't have to be in charge of this or that, or have followers, or be famous. If that becomes a service to you and Krishna, then fine. We carry it out in the same way as we clean the temple room floor or wash Krishna's pots. We do whatever service you and Krishna gives us in a humble and devotional mood. And that is the most important part, the devotional mood. Even if we are not able to render physical service, Our mood must always be devotion to Krishna. This was the message that she asked me to tell others, that your teachings work, Srila Prabhupada. All we have to do is to follow what you have taught us, and regardless of who we are, regardless even if we have no important position, we will be earning our ticket to go back home, back to Godhead, where we will serve you and Radha Krishna directly. So I've decided to make this message as my offering to you this year, to tell others what my wife told me, that your teachings work, Srila Prabhupada. All we have to do is follow what you've given us. There is no way we can thank you for what you have given us, the way out of this miserable samsara of this material world. From the lowest planet to the highest, it is all a place of misery, wherein repeated birth and death take place. We are now bound up, birth after endless birth, death after death. We are bound up to this place of birth, death, old age, and disease. As you told us, Srila Prabhupada, this material world is no place for a gentleman. We must just do our business and get out. And you have shown us the path. You have given us the map. Your teachings and books shed the full brilliance of 1,000 suns lighting up this path. All we have to do is follow you. Follow what you have taught us, and our great escape from the endless cycle of birth and death are guaranteed, even for us small, unimportant, common devotees who have no important social position. Your teachings work for everyone. Thank you very much. Aspiring to become your worthy and humble servant, Atma Yatmadas, ACBSP, initiated 1973. Jai, Hare Krishna. Very nice. Thank you, Mother, for directness there. Very inspiring. All right, so that's...
We aspire to be a simple devotee.
Which we are.
No,
Yeah.
no, nothing.
Yeah. All right, it's 7 o'clock. We're stopped there for today then. It's a nice ending. Thank you for that, Mother Numa Mata. Thanks for reading that. And tomorrow we begin Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? That's correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow.
Tuesday and Wednesday. So look forward to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so 6 o'clock tomorrow we'll get together for Bhagavad Gita, first class on that. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us. I wish you all a good evening. Hare Krishna. Any last comments? Should I end now?
Yeah, thank you, Murli Prabhu. His
Thank
grace
you
will
very
be
much,
Kripa Kripa Sindhurevacha.
very nice
Hare
to
Press the end button. Hari Bol.